How does it feel to follow your soul truth, to be your greatest self? I'm Destin, living my soul journey through dance in every stage of life, through figure skating from age 5 to competitions everywhere, through writing, poetry, creating my dream book, following my intuition to be with you, to speak with inspiring soul leaders here, unlocking the keys to their journey and share tools you can take home. Welcome to Fatum, where we choose to be our greatest self. Hi, I'm Destin. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Fatum, a space to journey inward and upward to discover what it truly means to be your greatest and highest self, with the help of inspiring soul leaders from around the world. And let's be honest, don't we need that now more than ever? Today's guest is someone truly special to me because he's led me to you, Ken D. Foster. He's a best-selling author of The Courage to Change Everything. He's a host of the Voices of Courage TV show, as well as Heal It, which is syndicated in over 185 countries around the world. And he's a conscious business leader and coach who's helped thousands awaken to their purpose. Before we dive into our conversation, I want to share something from my heart to yours. Now, writing is how I connect to my soul. It's how I've transmuted pain and heartbreak into self-love. And this poem was born from that journey and inspired by our conversation today. It's called Becoming. Today I smile while I cry. Rain falls, crows fly through mist and carry me away to trees older than I will ever be. Or so I think. Gravel tears my knees, I bleed quietly. A hawk spirals overhead, even the sky lets go. I press my face to moss, breath alive in the dirt. It whispers, soften, take root. Remember, a dog's howl splits in the night, then silence. Fireweed holds green through frost. Stars shine back through my eyes made of stars. A snake husk gleams on my path. I step over it barefoot, unspooling into something newer than fear, stronger than its coil inside of me. My knees bend at the river mouth, where endings meet beginnings. My hands, like gnarled roots, cup the water of becoming. I will live to drink it, to walk my soul's highest path. Beyond this body, the part that knows the purest part, with no name, rises through the sky, finally free into the knowing. I will be riverbed. I will be flight. I will be the moss's soft breath on another child's cheek, again and again, to remember me. My body made of water as I keep drinking the rain. And I continue to whisper, I soften, I take root. I am. Which brings me to our guest, Ken D. Foster. Welcome. I'm so honored to begin this season with you.
Destin, thank you so much I feel honored to be here after listening to that poem. That was just so beautiful. It really touched my heart, my soul. So it's a pleasure to be here too. You know, I've got a lot of information to share with your guests, hopefully more than information, because I think we have enough information. I've got wisdom that I will be imparting today to really help you open your soul and open your heart so that you can have more joy and happiness and love in your life.
Thanks, Ken. And, you know, that's why I started this show, to bring in people like you to bring that wisdom to the world. So glad you're here. And let's dive right in to what I call the first segment. What is my mission? Why am I here? Why do you think you're here, Ken? I mean, you've done so much, but from your perspective? What do you think?
So from my perspective, I'm here to awaken my inner genius and others' inner genius. I'm here to help people really remember who they are and what they're about, it not just as human beings, but as luminous souls that have infinite potential. My inner calling is to use the platforms that I've built, the books, the television, the radio, and the speaking to inspire courageous living, courageous leadership, and spiritual transformation. So, at the core of me is that I like to guide and elevate humanity and awareness to help bridge that bridge between success and soul fulfillment.
I see. And that's an important connection, right? Because success doesn't necessarily mean soul fulfillment, right?
Well, there's a lot of successful people in the world. Look around, they're all over. But so many people run empty. There's an emptiness within themselves, and if you sit down with people and they're looking to fill that emptiness, they're looking to go shopping, they're looking to go eat more, they're looking to go, party with their friends. There's a lot of places that people are trying to fill that emptiness that's there, but the only thing that fills that is connecting deeply to our soul.
Right. And was there a moment when you knew what that calling was for you to begin with?
Well, yeah, I was in a place where I was surrounding myself, but I would say lower companions. I was making a lot of money, and but I was estranged from my family. I was just not really happy, and I was chasing pleasure wherever I could. And in that moment, I had an awakening. I was in therapy at the time. And I went to the therapist and I said, "Hey, doc, I'm hearing this little voice. It says, you got to feel the pain to make the change." Literally, I didn't want to feel any pain. I wanted to play.
Right.
The doctor looked at me. I've been with him for a year. And he says, "Ken, I can't help you anymore." Very wise guy. You got to follow that voice. That voice was the voice of courage. That was the voice of the soul. And I started to follow that voice, and I started to do the things that were painful and hard to overcome, and my life changed in 1,000 different ways.
Perfect. And you have quite an incredible story starting from a very young age. So I would love to kind of segue into your journey and where you started. So what were the turning points, like the very first turning point that shaped your path? Because I believe you had a pretty troubled youth from what I glean initially. Is that right?
I was a troubled kid. My father was a police officer, and my mother worked for the state. And I had what I call unfettered courage. Okay, courage without wisdom. And so I was courageous. I would go out and try anything that I thought I would get a thrill, or I would do something new that I'd just experiment. And because I didn't have the wisdom to understand what was actually even right or wrong in many cases, it landed me in lots of trouble. Yeah. So in high school, I didn't read a book until I got out of high school, and then my dad was a very blessed man. He put me to work on an assembly line. And I went, "Man, you know what? I'm not doing this the rest of my life." So I said, "What's an easier way?" And I was still chasing that easy path. I thought, well, going back to college. So I did. And I went to college, and right out of college, right out of San Diego State, I started my first business, which was a waterbed business. And, we did really well. We grew to 5 stores. But it was my first time as an entrepreneur. And I was reading books like Think and Grow Rich, but they didn't make any sense to me. And anyway, so that was a great experience, learning experience, because we closed our stores, and I had to file bankruptcy with that. Actually, we file bankruptcy. We went into a receivership, and we were able to sell off all of our assets in that one. So that was hard. Then I started a manufacturing company because I figured, well, I don't want to work for anybody. So anyway, my life goes on like that, okay? There's a lot of stop, starts, and patterns until I hit that place that I just mentioned earlier, where I listened to that counselor and I said, it's time to wake up and grow up. It's time to learn how to, first thing I did was learn how to meditate.
Mm.
And that stopped the crazy thoughts. Not all. There was still a lot of craziness in there, but I started to reconnect with a deeper part of myself.
Perfect. And to our viewers, for them to learn from you right now, if there was something to advise them to let go of, looking back at your journey, what did you let go of in order to help you grow?
I let go of the beliefs that I was limited. I let go of beliefs that I couldn't do it, right? I started to embrace that, and I think college helped me a lot because I got through college, after just barely going through high school, but I graduated college with in the top 10% of my class. So yeah, I felt good about myself. And I started to realize that whatever I put my mind to, I could really accomplish. And I think that was a big turning point. So here's what I know, right? A little wisdom for your audience is that your thinking determines your behaviors, right? Everybody agree with that, right? But how do you know which thoughts are limiting you and how do you know which thoughts are empowering you, right? Well, most of the time what's limiting you is your thinking. What's empowering you is the thought that you will get if you sit and get quiet in meditation. It was Albert Einstein that said, all I want to know are the thoughts of God, the rest are details. Why did he say that? Because he realized that when he got still, when he contemplated, when he meditated, that he would have downloads, right? And I'm working with a genius right now, Dr. Ervin Laszlo. Dr. Laszlo has written over 106 books, been nominated twice for the Nobel Peace Prize, and he is in his 90s now, and he's the same thing. He's like, I asked him one time, I said, well, let me back up. Leonardo da Vinci, the great inventor of the Renaissance, said, when asked what's the price of greatness, he said isolation. Yogananda, that the great sage that came in to the United States and brought yoga in the 1920s, was asked, what's the price of greatness? He said, stillness is the price of greatness. I asked Dr. Laszlo, what's the price of greatness? Dr. Laszlo thought about it, and he said, knowing who you are and living from oneness. Knowing who you are and living from oneness. He wasn't talking about knowing who we are, our personality, or the possessions we have. He was talking about knowing who you are as a soul and knowing who you are as a child of the Most High. That's what he's talking about. And then he said, living from oneness. Your generation, Destin, I think lives a little more from oneness than mine did. But living from oneness is understanding that everything is connected. What we do in our own environment affects the environment of others.
Right. One of my favorite mantras is, I am the universe and the universe is me. And I really do try to live by that as much as possible, to stay connected to everyone and everything, because we are in the flow in everything we do affects someone else in the environment and others. And I believe we have a short clip from you. So we're going to take a quick short break. And when we return, Ken, we want to hear about all your juice. What kind of your personal toolkit for how you live your life, how you maintain this incredible energy. So we will be right back. One moment.
We have enough information, just Google it or AI it. What the world needs today is courage and wisdom. The courageous ones have moved us forward. These are the fearless, the ones with determination, the resilient ones. They have grit and rise to meet the challenges and opportunities. They encourage, empower, and enlighten us to all glow up, shift our thinking, and step into our greatness. Yes, these are the ones who have led the way. Now, listen to the courageous ones of today and step into your courage.
Welcome back, everyone. Ken, so excited to have you and get into the tools that have brought you here. So your daily rituals, obviously we were just talking about oneness. How do you connect oneness to kind of your everyday life, and how do you bring that in?
Well, I'm a business strategist and been a life coach for 30 years. So how I bring that into business, if a organization is, let's say, having challenges bringing in revenue, I'll ask them to look at, well, how are you treating your customers? How are you treating your employees? What are your values? What are your missions? Let's start from there. Okay. Because, if you treat others the way that you really want to be treated, now this is kind of basic things, right? But people do not do that. Why? In the corporate world, we look for profits over people in traditional corporations. And, that's an old model. We also have a model of top-down management. So the boss at the top tells everybody what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And if you don't do it, you get fired. Well, there's a new model in business. This is living from oneness, and it's really a bottom-up message. In other words, the secretary is just as important as the president. They just play different roles.
Absolutely.
And we have to get that into the world in the business side, right? In our family life, how do we incorporate oneness? Well, we realize that we become more conscious. Consciousness is the key to oneness. We start to think about, what does this food that I'm putting in my body, how does that not only affect me and my family, how does it impact the planet if I keep eating that? Okay. There are definitely foods on the planet that are not sustainable, and there are foods that are poisoned, and we're putting them into our bodies and it's hurting us. Then now we go to see a doctor and the healthcare system. So it's really a place where we start to think about the impact that's not only happening to us, but to the world, to our family, to our friends, as a result of our behaviors. And listen, this isn't something you usually do overnight. It's something you've grown into by some of the practices we'll talk about today.
And like whenever you wake up in the morning, is there something you do right away that helps you feel centered?
Well, I'm an intentional person. I live from intention. And so when I go to bed in the evening, I set my intention to wake up feeling alert, alive, and ready, and have a good night's sleep. And, that's where I start. So I wake up in the morning when my eyes just barely open up. I go to gratitude. Before I get out of bed, I just think of what I'm grateful for. And, I've learned how I start the day is usually how I finish the day. Right? And after that, for me, I've had a meditation practice for over 30 years. So the morning and evening, and many times during the day now, I didn't start out that way again. But that's what I practice. Why? Because I've realized that we're all souls evolving, growing, stepping into higher consciousness. And why are we here? It's a good question, right? Most people don't think about, well, why am I here? Are you here just to have a good time and play and run around? Well, sure, that's part of it. But why is your soul come here to this planet, to this time? That's a good question, isn't it?
That's why we're here. We're talking about it.
Well, in my world, you're here to ascend to the higher levels of consciousness. You're here to ascend past the astral, past the causal world, back into the consciousness of God.
Absolutely. And for you and all that you're offering the world right now, I'd love to kind of get into our healing minutes, which I'm really excited about as our final segment, something for all of us to take home, integrate, reflect on. And your amazing book, The Courage to Change Everything, is something I feel like everyone needs. So be sure to grab that. We're going to put the link on the screen. Ken, would you like to share something from the book? Or
Yeah, I've got something from the book. And for those of you that haven't seen this book, it's called The Courage to Change Everything, Daily Strategies and Essential Wisdom to Awaken Your Inner Genius. And this book is a daily read. So I know a lot of you are very busy out there. So it's about 20 minutes a day. It's a one day at a time type of read. And I wrote this book so that people would be able to, you don't need wisdom and understanding every now and then. You need it every day. We need to grow and evolve every day. That's why I wrote that book. So I'd love to share with you a little excerpt from that book. Now, this book is about you stepping into courage. Courage is an energy, a frequency, and a vibration. And when you step into it, you start to elevate your consciousness. Now, the way you step into courage is you got to go out and do something you haven't done before most of the time, right? Because you're just sitting around going, well, I'd like to have more courage. That's not going to happen, okay? So pick something big for you. Think of something. Maybe this is the day that you do a 90-day reset in your life. You're saying, you know what? I'm going to look at my relationships, my money, my career. I'm going to look at my spiritual life. I'm going to look at my friendships. I'm going to look at my fun time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a reset or a realignment with that to up-level it for the next 90 days. Here's an excerpt from my book. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the mastery of it. It's the divine spark that calls you forward. Even when everything around you tells you to retreat, if you can listen deeply enough, you'll realize that your fear is not your enemy. It's your threshold to becoming great. And I turned the book today, I just opened it up, and it fell on page 146, and I'll read a little excerpt there. So the book starts out with a courage quote, which I just gave you. Today is the day to take your life to new heights. It's a time to make new choices. It's a time of renewal and rebirth. It's the time to let go of the past and those things that have not served you well. It's the time to throw off the portals of limitations and open to new possibilities. It is the time to set intentions and breathe new life into your greatest dreams. Imagine, if you could really start over, what changes would you make? How would you remake your life? Well, now's the time to answer those questions and more. Are you done playing small? Are you sick and tired of living in mediocrity? And fear not, but realize you have some work to do. This is a little longer chapter, so I'm not going to finish it. You'll have to get the book to get the rest. But that book is written for you to inspire your greatness every single day. You know, when we step into courage, when we step into the unknown, it really does take coaches and consultants and people that will really help you to the next level. It also takes reading books and listening to tapes and what have you consistently. So if you practice that, start with meditation, practice this every single day. And the other thing I want to end this with, Destin, is, when I end my day every day, right, I ask, what worked today? What didn't work today? And what can I do to improve tomorrow? And I think about that, and I write it down, and I set my intentions the next day to take my life to the next level, which I hope you'll do too. You can get that book at couragetochange.us, couragetochange.us, or you can go to my website, kendfoster.com.
Thank you, Ken. That was gorgeous. And, the courage to change, I kept trying to manifest what that would mean for me. And as you mentioned, it's all about letting go, right? Letting go of everything that hasn't served you in the past, letting go of situations and people that might have not served your highest good. But, we all have to let go of those negative experiences in order to move forward, would you say? I mean, that's honestly usually one of the hardest parts to breaking free and becoming your greatest self, is letting go of all those parts and resentments that might not serve you, I think.
Well, I have one of my shows is called The Heal It Show, and I have a lot of practitioners on that show, people that know cause and cure. And I'll say this about letting go. If you do not let go, the chances of you getting some type of a physical illness, okay, as part of the cause is about 100% right now. Okay, about 100%. That's how important it is to let go. And I gave out my website. If you go to my website, kendfoster.com, there's a free release process that I wrote about 20 years ago that's helped thousands of people let go of their baggage. It's a global release. Some people tell me it was like taking a dark pair of sunglasses off that I never knew I had on when they used to go through that process. So encourage you to go over to kendfoster.com and find out about it.
Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you for being here. And I'm Destin. This is Fatum, and we can't wait to see you next week for more. Thank you for watching Fatum, where we trust our intuition and be our greatest self. Continue the journey with me on YouTube at Fatum Poetry by Destin and at fatumpoetry.com.